What's up, everybody? I don't know what episode this is, 68, possibly. It's going to be a quick episode because I have things to do and I know I'm a couple of days late, but better late than never. I just finished up the semester and I'm trying to get back onto a schedule. So just bear with me. I know for my ADHD ass, it takes a couple of weeks for me to like hone in on a schedule because every in between semesters, there's always something new happening that I have to incorporate into everything. So just be patient with me. I appreciate you guys being patient so far. But in this episode, I've gotten back to my journaling. It's so funny. I got this particular journal, if you're watching this on YouTube and not just listening, when I was 30, and it's taken me almost 3 years to fill up. And it's like an archive of my life, like falling in love with this person, falling out of love with this person, and in love with this new person. It's just like documents like certain big pieces of my emotional life. And so now I feel like I want to get back to journaling every other day. Emotionally, I don't know where I'm at. I sat in therapy the other day, and for those of you who are paying attention and keeping up, my grandmother passed away 2 months ago. In a couple of days it'll be 2 months, and that was definitely a difficult situation to go through. It was emotionally taxing and draining, and then I had never watched a person take their last breath before. And if you know me, I have very bad anxiety. So you can only imagine what that did for me in that, like, to me in that moment. Like watching her literally take the last breath. It's just, I can't even describe the feeling, right? But now, 2 months into it, there's this numb feeling. I don't know if it's numbness though. And that's the thing. I think I want to share this because I think it is relevant. We get into these places where sometimes you think you're okay, and sometimes you just go with the motions of life and you don't check in with yourself. And so therapy is good for that specific situation because every 2 weeks, I see my therapist every 2 weeks. I sit down with her and she goes, "So how are you feeling?" And there are moments where I know exactly what I'm feeling and exactly what I want to say and exactly what has happened that week that I need to get out and talk about or cry about or whatever. And then there are moments I look at her and I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know if I'm okay. I don't know if I'm suppressing and just pushing down emotions when it comes to certain situations, or if I'm truly feeling good. I can tell you I'm not drinking. Am I sober in the sense that will I not take a sip of alcohol? No. Like the other night we went out to dinner, I had one glass of wine. It does nothing. It's few and far between on my sobriety journey. Like, to me now, there's no point in me even having one drink. So having one drink happens, let's say, like once a month, if that, because there's no point. So yes, I am still sober. I have not been drunk since the wedding that y'all know I did that episode back in March. I haven't been drunk since that event. I don't plan on being drunk anymore because it just doesn't feel good anymore. And so I'm not utilizing negative coping mechanisms, right? Whereas in the past, whenever I had to question my feelings or question what I was feeling in some sort of emotional transition in life, I questioned it because I was masking and numbing with alcohol and other substances and things like that, right? Now I'm not overtly doing it. I'm sure there are things that I could be distracting with, like reading book. Like, I don't even know. Is reading a distraction? I don't know. But the moral of the story is my therapist asked me a simple question. How are you doing with your, like, with the situation with your grandmother passing and all of that? And I looked at her and I said, honestly, I don't know. And she goes, okay, it's okay to be there. It's okay to be in this place where you're like, I don't know how I feel. I don't know if I'm sad. I don't know if I'm truly doing okay and I'm just, pushing on in life, or if there are things that still need to come to the surface. And outside of my grandmother passing away, there are other things that I think that I'm questioning myself, like, are you okay? Or are you just masking? Are you just not facing this particular situation head on? And the one thing she told me to do is, well, she asked me first, well, have you been journaling? And I looked at her and I said, no. And that's the thing about therapy as well, guys. If you're going to go see a therapist and pay for a therapist, you have to be completely transparent with them. You can't lie to them. They're not there to yell at you. They're there to hold you accountable when you should be doing certain things that would help your growth and expansion, but they're not going to yell at you. So being completely transparent about where you're at and you falling to the wayside with certain things or whatever, that's going to help. It's going to only help you being honest, right? So I looked at her and I said, no, I haven't. I honestly haven't been journaling. And she said, okay, what I want you to do is every other day, at least, I want you to sit down and make it a point to journal your feelings. Whatever comes out, whatever comes onto the paper is what comes onto the paper. And then you can reflect back and look at a couple of journal entries and think to yourself, okay, is this sounding like a person who is emotionally in a good place? And then she said, and then, we can revisit this when I see you in 2 weeks. But for the next 2 weeks, you're responsible to be journaling at least every other day. And so I've been doing that. And today was the first day. I saw her, I want to say I saw her in the beginning of the week. Today's Tuesday. No, I saw her at the end of last week, Friday. And so I took the weekend, didn't journal. And today was the first day that I actually made it a point to sit down and journal. And what came up was me being tired of, and this is only day one, so I'm sure more things will come up, but I felt like this is something I definitely wanted to speak on because it resonates for me. Obviously, it hits home for me, but I don't speak on these podcasts just to hear myself speak. Obviously, when I have some sort of epiphanous moment, I want to speak on it so I can possibly help somebody out there listening or watching or something like that, even if it's one person. So the first thing that hit this paper, like the pen hit the paper, and the first thing that my head wanted to write down onto that piece of paper was, I am tired of missing people that no longer exist. And what I mean by that is sometimes we create, with our relationships, sometimes we create these fantasies in our heads about who we see another person as, right? Whether it's because we're putting them on pedestals or we want them to fit this idealistic dream thing that we have in our brains that we've made up. And so we miss all of the cues about these people, whether it's friend or more than friend or family member. We put these, the ideal mother or the ideal girlfriend or the ideal friend, and we paint this picture of them in our own heads. And then when they don't live up to those standards that we have in our heads, we get hurt. But it's essentially this cycle, and this is what I've realized, and probably because today's the first day of Mercury retrograde. And so things do resurface, people resurface so that you can revisit certain situations, A, to see how much you've learned, and B, to really release. You revisit so that you can release. It's not for no reason, right? But I digress. So I had this epiphanous moment that I am tired of missing people that don't exist. These characters and caricatures of these people that I've created in my own head. And then when the universe shows me who these people truly are, or at the very least, who these people are choosing to be in this moment, right? Because sometimes it's not who they truly are, it's who they're choosing to be. I don't want to be this person. I want to be that person. Is that person who I truly am? No, but I'm choosing to be that person, right? So just pay attention to that as well, because we are all humans, right? And you have to understand that not every human that hurts you and not every human that disappoints you is a horrible person. It can feel like that at times, but that is not the case. When the universe shows me, or you, let's say, who these people, not who these people are in my head, but who these people either truly are or who they are choosing to be at that moment, and you refuse to see what the universe is mirroring back to you, that's where the pain comes from, right? Because it's like looking in a mirror. It's like looking at your reflection of something, and then in the background you see a bear coming your way and you're like, that's not a bear. Well, then you can't get mad when you get mauled by the fucking bear, because you saw the bear coming. And that's not to victim blame at all. Like, if you've been wronged by somebody or you've been hurt by somebody, your feelings are completely valid. 100% valid in how you feel. But we often have to look at the situations and ask ourselves, did I see this coming? Or not even did I see this coming? Was I shown the true way that this was going to go by being shown how this person moves and this person acts? And when I was shown that, did I say, nah, that's bullshit. I don't believe that. Because one thing I've learned is that when the universe shows you who a person is or who a person is trying to be, you believe them. You don't believe the cockamamie story that you made up in your head about who you want them to be. You believe who they're showing you they are in that moment. Even if they're going through a rough time, right? And you can't blame people for going through rough times. And we all have moments like that. Let me say this. I've gone through many a difficult time in my life. I would say this is a very, not difficult. I honestly, genuinely I feel okay. I feel good, right? I've gone through many a difficult time in my life. And difficult transitions in life, and faced very many unknowns in life. And I've never used that as an excuse to treat another person like shit. So for me, if a person is going through some shit and they're treating you in any single solitary way that is not good enough for you, that's not an excuse to stick around and deal with people's shit. Mental health issues. I got news for you. Mental health issues are not a reason for you to stick around and be abused by people either. I've often, I'm going into, when I graduate in a year, literally a year from now, when I graduate with my bachelor's, I will be then walking right into a master's program, like starting in September, around September, the fall semester, like three, four, how many months we got? We're in May. In 4 months, I will be applying to master's programs, in like social work master's programs. I will be a social worker, a licensed clinical social worker. Mark my fucking words. I'm getting my master's in social work. So as somebody who is going into the field of, I don't want to say psychology because it's social work, but mental health, I pay attention to a lot of psychologists on the internet, YouTube, on TikTok. I watch a lot of therapy talk, right? And there's this one person who I follow, Dr. Martin. She's a psychologist, and I've actually had the pleasure of doing an interview with her for an internship that I was doing. And she's incredible. And she received a comment on one of her videos, basically scrutinizing her for drawing boundaries with her patients. And so just because a person has a mental illness, and now I'm not saying y'all are fucking mental health counselors or anything like that, but just because somebody has a mental illness doesn't mean that you can't draw boundaries with them or even walk away when things get too heavy for you and your own mental health, right? So even that, I've seen excuses be made with people. Well, she's bipolar, or he has schizophrenia, whatever it is, as an excuse to stay with somebody and remain in a relationship with somebody who is being abusive. That's no excuse. Never should ever be an excuse. He or she has an addiction problem, not an excuse to stay in an abusive situation. The moral of this story that I am trying to bring home is you have to be respecting your boundaries first and foremost. And when the universe shows you, regardless of what the reason is they're showing you, but when the universe shows you who a person is in that moment or who they are choosing to be, you have to then take it at face value, because it's the real, like it's the reality of the situation. You have to take that and then assess it and ask yourself, okay, universe, you've shown me that this person wants to act like this right now. They want to act, I don't know, fill in the blank. They want to be important, so they're doing X, Y, Z to make themselves feel important for whatever reason. Does this work for me? Am I comfortable with this? No. Okay, well then what should I do hereafter now that I know that this is not a behavior that is comfortable for me, period, right? That's how we have to approach situations. And so I'm assessing my own issues and revisiting my own problems when it comes to people that I no longer speak to or recently have deaded out of my life. I am tired of missing people that never truly existed. They existed physically, and maybe they did exist at one point, right? Maybe the person I saw them to be absolutely existed at one point in life, and when they did exist in that way, it was amazing and wonderful and everything was great. But now, present day 2022, that person doesn't exist anymore. They're gone, long gone. And so there's no point to remain in a situation where you are missing somebody that no longer exists. They've either shown you who they really are, period, or they've shown you who they are choosing to be at this moment in their life, and who they are choosing to be is no longer the person you thought them to be. And those are the situations and relationships that you have to evaluate, especially with this Mercury in retrograde and any Mercury in retrograde. That's what it's all about. That's what happens. It's revisiting these old situations to see, like, does this fit into my life any longer, into my energy, because things are ever changing, right? If I go back to myself a year ago, I'm not the same person I was. If I go back a year prior to that, I'm not the same person I was then. And you know what I mean? Things are constantly evolving. When I think back to myself back in September, I'm not the same person that I was. And you should always be kind of doing that so that you can track your progress, because in the day-to-day, you don't see it because you're just going through the motions. It's good to reflect back in that way, but Mercury in retrograde makes you revisit. That's why people pop back into our lives. I believe in archetypes, human archetypes, Carl Jung. That's where, I love these tarot decks. That's why I love tarot so much, is because beyond the esoteric and beyond all of the spirituality and stuff, tarot is simply just 78 different human archetypes of the human condition that can fit into anybody's lives, right? So you're consistently evolving and changing, and you have to consistently ask yourself, in whatever archetypal moment I'm in my life, does this any longer fit? Does this any longer make sense? I don't know what's on my cup. And the universe will bring you or make you revisit situations not so directly either, I've noticed. Like when you start to pay attention, you're like, well played, universe. The universe won't just bring people back into your life to revisit specific situations with those people. It will mirror back people who are going through similar situations that are coming to you, like asking you for advice about almost the exact same situation that you've been through in the past. It's like, for example, you have a friend who you were in a narcissistic relationship with somebody, with a narcissist, very toxic, whatever, right? You're out of it now. You're stronger. You know how to deal with it now. You don't deal with it anymore. You're out of the woods. Mercury in retrograde comes around, and now you have a best friend who's dealing with the same exact situation and is literally the you in the situation. And this person is coming to you for advice and for help, and counsel. And so the universe spits back mirrors of you to you, especially during Mercury retrograde, so that you can then understand your progress, and B, show your progress and really live it, right? So when you don't realize how far you've come until you have to give advice to somebody else. And also, when you're faced with yourself in that way, you can look at the situation and be like, oh my God, that was me. That's what I did. I looked like that. I sounded like that. Holy shit. I don't ever want to sound like that again. I'm so happy I'm in a better place. If I'm ever faced with this situation again, I will have the strength to literally snip, cut the person out of my life way before the shit even begins, right? Because you look at other people who are going through similar or literally parallel situations to what you've gone through, and when you're trying to give that person advice and they're refusing to listen, or they keep asking, let's say, like the same questions over and over again, or they seem very in a desperate place, you have to have empathy for them, but at the same time you have to also look and be like, wow, I was there at one point as well, and I will never be there again. So this episode is really all about Mercury being in retrograde. It's all about revisiting situations, but also revisiting the fallacies that we keep in our heads about who other people are, even after they've shown us many times over who they want to be and what archetypes they want to play in our lives. So just keep that in mind when you're going through this Mercury in this retrograde period. Starts today, May 10th, ends June 3rd. So I suggest writing down in a journal, like my therapist tells me, like writing down in your journal daily things that have happened or are coming up, and seeing maybe on June 4th, or maybe I would say probably like mid-June, June 15th, after you're out of like all of the shadow periods and shit like that. And it's completely, you're out of the woods of the retrograde period, revisiting your entries, your journal entries, and asking, like, asking yourself, okay, what came up here? What was the lesson here? So yeah, I hope that makes some sort of sense. I hope I wasn't too rambly. If y'all have any questions, feel free to leave them in the description below if you're on YouTube, or shoot me an email. That's in the descriptions of all of the regardless, the audio or the YouTube. Thank you to all the patrons for being so patient with me and being amazing and continuing to support. Thank you to anybody who has received a tarot reading. You guys are incredible as well. I thoroughly enjoy doing those. And I will be probably, I was thinking June, but I have a lot of things going on in May and like in the beginning of June that I'm hoping by mid-July I will be doing starting one-on-one coaching sessions with people. I'm revamping my website. I'm revamping everything, so stay tuned for that. It's all in the works. I'm trying to take my time with it, plan ahead, and not get ahead of myself. So just look out for that. And any updates that I have, I will let everybody know. But yeah, that's that. I love you guys very much, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace out.